Anthony Weiner is not going anywhere. The candidate for mayor in New York City, he's vowing to remain in the race despite the sexting scandal that you no doubt have heard about. A new poll now shows the former frontrunner in the Democratic primary has now dropped to fourth.
Ooh.
The air has come out of the balloon, as it were. The big drop in support after more embarrassing photos surfaced and his campaign manager called it quits over the weekend. The campaign is floundering. The signs all point to a sinking candidacy, but Weiner says he won't quit.
And a new poll of San Diego residents says 67% want their mayor, Bob Filner, to resign after a series of sexual harassment allegations from multiple current and former female employees and colleagues. But Filner isn't quitting either. Instead, he began 2 weeks of therapy that he says will hopefully change his sexually demeaning language and behavior. So we're talking about two politicians here on opposite sides of the country clinging despite embarrassing sexually charged allegations, despite their constituents overwhelmingly saying they don't want him around anymore. So why won't they go away? What are they thinking? And do they really have a problem, as in a psychological problem? That's the question.
For an answer to that, let's turn to some experts. First, Dr. Shannon Chavez, a clinical psychologist with expertise in treating sexual disorders. And on the political side of all this, Valley political consultant Mike O'Neill. Dr. Chavez, let me begin with you. All politicians, all men, we could throw in Elliot Spitzer in there if you want to. What's the common thread that would drive these guys to such reckless behavior that would threaten their careers, and has?
Well, I think for one thing, power increases infidelity, and with power, it increases confidence, assertiveness, impulsiveness, and there really is more confident people that engage in risky behaviors despite negative consequences.
Confident but fragile in some way, that they need some kind of validation?
Well, with these political positions, there is more distance between partners, so there's less psychological closeness, which decreases their sensitivity to risky behaviors.
Mike, politically, this doesn't make any sense to me. He's going from first place to fourth place in just days. Why doesn't the guy just step back and say, maybe not this time?
I think the answer is, first of all, denial, and secondly, perhaps the lack of other options.
Well, we read over the weekend that he spent $45,000 of his own money when these allegations first surfaced, hiring a PI to investigate maybe his Twitter being hacked when he knew he was the one who put these out. That is just delusion.
That's the word I'd use. Delusion,
hey, Mike,
denial.
Mike, quickly on the political question. I mean, this is not new in America. Alexander Hamilton had a big scandal in the George Washington administration, having an affair that became public. He was blackmailed over it. This is not new, yet we seem to think this is happening more and more. I guess what I'm getting at is, with politicians, is there something in their DNA, and Dr. Chavez alluded to it, risk-taking behavior. You've got to be a little on the edge to run for office in the first place. That may lend itself to this.
I really wouldn't speculate that, but I think what's interesting about the Weiner case is that the American public has shown a propensity to be willing to give people a second chance, but not a third. Anthony Weiner has run out of chances.
Well, now we're hearing there could be as many as 10 women. I want to talk to you, Dr. Chavez, about this Bob Filner case, because we can laugh at the Anthony Weiner stuff. He's sending his pictures out, and if he can find a willing subject that's willing to engage with him, then that happens. But this Filner guy, this almost goes beyond just a sexual, it almost goes into assault the way he's going after people. You know, people are talking about sex therapy. Is this beyond sex therapy?
Well, I think we need to be really careful as to how we diagnose sexual addiction versus infidelity. For one thing, anyone that has the diagnosis of sexual addiction, there is a measurable amount of distress and effect to their day-to-day functioning. And there are a lot of collateral indicators as to whether someone is a sex addict. There's addiction in the family, there is this sexual arousal only to addictive behaviors, and really there is this escalation of sexual behaviors and need to numb intolerable emotions such as shame, hopelessness, and this idea of loneliness in their life.
Dr. Chavez, Filner, the San Diego mayor, he's going into something called quote-unquote intensive therapy for 2 weeks. Can you fix this in 2 weeks?
Absolutely not. And that's
Well,
part
see, it
of
would be
the,
nice if the San Diego voters knew this.
right,
Well,
right.
they want him to step down, by the way, in overwhelming numbers, but nonetheless. Go ahead.
It's intensive therapy has become one of the primary ways to address sex addiction, but it is a long-term, over time, lifelong commitment to repairing some of this early childhood concerns or issues around family systems, betrayal in the relationship, and it takes a lot of work within the relationship to repair what has happened as a result of sex addiction.
The 2-week crash course won't do it. Thank
Mike,
you.
I got to ask you really quick. We're out of time. You know the old saying, any publicity is good publicity. Can you see any way that this whole Weiner scandal could be good publicity for the guy?
For him, no way whatsoever. This is political death in his case. There's no redemption.
Dr. Chavez, Mike O'Neill, great to have you both on. Appreciate it. Good discussion. Thanks.
Thank you.